How you guys doing today? I want to talk to you today about something that just drove me absolutely bananas yesterday, and the family member of an advisor was being basically used to generate commissions. And when I found this out, I was like, okay, well, all of the other videos that I was going to film this week are going to take a back seat to this one because I want to talk about this. And this is coming from the company in the financial industry in Canada that I dislike the absolute most. I'm not going to name them, but they are based on a pyramid, and that's how they develop their advisors, is by having advisors. I've been recruited by them recently, and I've seen this actually a whole bunch of times whenever I get statements from them, but I have never actually known for sure why. I had a little bit of assumptions, and I was close to correct, but now I know with 100% certainty that all they are doing whenever they do this is generating extra commission for themselves with no regard as to what matters to you. Is that a good move for you? Does that cost you more money? Does that cost you less? Is that good timing to do this? This is 100% to make extra money off of you, even though they've already made an absolute fortune. So before I tell you what this is, I first have to explain to you what churning is, which isn't really that possible anymore because churning had to do with DSC funds, which are no longer available to sell in Canada anymore, but they were something that you could sell inside of segregated funds still. So most people that are in DSC funds, they're basically coming up, and you'll never be locked into that DSC garbage anymore. But what DSC funds were is basically, let's say when I started at IG and you would say, okay, well, I want you to invest your money. I know if you're going to put $100,000 in at the time, I think, I would have made something like $500 a year or something like that. Maybe not even. But if I got you into DSC funds, then they were going to pay me an upfront commission of 3 to 4%. So they're charging like 2.5% on the funds, but they're going to give me an upfront commission of 3 or 4% to sell this with a lower trailer fee of like say 2.5%, so $250 a year instead of $500, because they know the money is going to be in there for at least 7 years. And if that client or customer takes that money out within the 7 years, then they are going to be charged a percentage based on, the time frame of the DSC schedule. So basically you get penalized a little less each year until it gets down to 0 after 7 years. So what churning was, and it still is, I guess, is once the DSC schedule was up, then advisors used to go ahead and be like, you know what, I'm just going to change your funds into these funds and lock you into a new DSC schedule without telling you. Back in the day, it didn't have to be reported. Nobody had to talk to, compliance about the fact that they talked about this or not. They just sold them and said, oh, well, I thought I talked to you about this. It was in my notes or whatever. But that means every 7 years, you could basically regenerate that 3 or 4% upfront commission on that new amount that was no longer part of DSC. Because DSC no longer exists, that is impossible for that to happen because you can't put them into new DSC and get an upfront commission. However, now with these big firms, what they have obviously is deep pockets. They have a whole bunch of money. So if I brought somebody over with $100,000 and let's say we were charging them at K4, just for example, an ease of sake, 1%. That means K4 is getting $1,000 a year, and I'm paying the advisor or myself X portion of that after expenses, blah blah blah. So over the course of 7 years, you're going to make $7,000. What these companies do is they say, you know what, okay, like if you believe that this client is going to be with you for say 3, 4, 5 years, then you can put them into this new series of funds, and we will give you an upfront commission of say 2.5% or 3%, because you know that they're going to be there for a long time. We're basically fronting you the money, but if they move it out, you have to pay us back that commission that you earned, because they haven't earned that money yet. Kind of makes sense. It helps to incentivize new advisors. Like, I would do that, if I could, but I don't really have the capital behind me to say, yes, I can pay you this whole ton of upfront money for a client that you brought in. So unfortunately, that's kind of where I've always been behind the 8 ball in that sense, is because we don't get an upfront commission for, getting people to invest their money for the long term, and we have to hope that we can keep them happy for the long term, because it takes 4 or 5 years generally to actually sort of pay yourself back, depending on the size of the investor. So anyway, I'll get to my story. So I got a referral from a client. They've been with me since near the beginning, and they were just like, yeah, go and talk to Kent and see if he wants to talk to you. More than happy to talk to her. So Joaquin and I start talking to her, and I know it's going to be pretty easy, because I know that she's working with this guy at this firm that is not very good, and they're charging her a fortune. I know that before I even talk to her. So it's like, okay, let's talk about it. Let me give you a retirement plan. I know that you want to retire soon. Let's see how that's going to work. Let's talk about your game plan to move closer to your family. Let's talk about the important things first. Now let's take a look at your investments. Pick any random fund on this list of funds that you're invested in, and let me pull it up on Google. So she picks one, and it's actually one of the lower fee funds in her portfolio, and it's somewhere around 2.55% that she's paying in MERs on this fund. So she's got roughly $300,000 with a family member advisor, and the firm is making $7,500 off her every single year. Her family member is probably making, half of that or 40% of that or something like that. And the firm is taking the remainder of that. So he's earning really good money off of her. Plus, I can see on her old statement that 2 things have happened. So I was like, well, do you know when you invested this money? Because there are some DSC funds that she still holds in there, and I'm worried, because I'm like, if we're going to move this, I don't want you to be penalized to move this. However, it's going to make a lot of financial sense for you to move this, because we are going to reduce your fees, in her case, by 1.1%, and that reduction will increase if she adds more money or that amount grows. She's actually going to be saving $3,300 a year working with us, and I gave her a very simple financial plan that allowed her to understand how she can retire, when to take out OAS. Her family member advisor already told her to take CPP at 60 when she was still working, so he could actually have her invest that money, which was a really bad piece of advice, which you think probably wouldn't happen, considering he's working for a company that's charging her $7,500 a year and making, $2,500 a year or more to actually work with her. Plus, he's made an upfront commission in excess of $10,000 to $12,000 just from the initial investments that she put in. So now we've got conflicts of interest all over the place, and I'm like, whatever, I don't really want to badmouth this person because he's your family member. I want you to work with us because I know that we're going to be better. I know that we're going to save you fees, and you just need a little bit of realistic, good advice and nothing that is trying to sell you a bunch of garbage. So it's like, okay, the one thing before we move this money is I need you to email him and ask him if there's any DSC charges left on the money that, you invested initially. Because if there is, then I have to run some math and see how long the break-even point would be. Maybe we can move that money in kind and then reduce the fees after. There are some different options available to us, but I needed to know before I was going to make her or ask her to pull the trigger, because I didn't want there to be an unexpected cost. She emails him and asks, and this is what he responded with. The Yorkville Lira we invested 7 years ago, that DSC is up. The stuff we recently moved with IA is in chargeback series, so I would take the hit if you moved it out. So what that means, straight up, is that she was in a full-blown, I don't know if it was good or not, IA Clarington portfolio full of funds that were costing over 2.5% that had DSC on them. As soon as the DSC came up, for no reason other than he wanted to make more money, he told her that he was going to move her into new IA Clarington funds with a different mixture in the portfolio that were all of a sudden now within this chargeback series funds, which means that his corporation was automatically going to give him an upfront commission because he moved that money into these new funds so he could generate new money, new commissions. That's it. Not in the best interest of his family member, to ensure that he could win a trip to the mountains for the weekend. This is absolute garbage. This is what everybody is doing out there, and you don't know it. And I don't mean everybody. There are tons of great advisors, but if you ever look at your portfolio and see that your advisor has sold everything you own and bought all of these new funds, that is an immediate red flag. You go and ask that person, why did you do that? What is the purpose? Do you think they're going to get better returns? Am I saving money in fees because of you did that? What was the purpose other than you trying to make more goddamn money, even though you already made an absolute shitload and you've given this person terrible advice all the way through, and you call yourself an advisor? And I think this business is absolute garbage because we allow this to absolutely happen every single day. And I legitimately lose to these people because they don't have to show how much they're costing their clients every year. They are not transparent with anything, and we are. And then our clients come to us and say, well, we're paying you this much, and we don't like paying you this much. And I'm like, you're paying that other piece of garbage over there twice as much as you're paying us, and we are telling you, and we're never going to give you advice like that. Just makes me sick. Absolutely sick. Then he writes, I would strongly encourage you not to move it now in this down market. You just moved it, you piece of shit. You just moved it. Why? I'm telling her to move it so she can save $3,300 a year in fees and have an actual retirement plan. Oh my God. Man, I wish all of these pieces of shit would go out of business. I hope they do. They're absolutely wrong. They ruin this industry for everybody else. That company is absolute garbage. They make millions of dollars off of the backs of hardworking Canadians every day, selling them shit like this, generating commissions, selling them UL policies they can't afford, selling them whole life policies they can't afford, claiming that they're infinite banking and now they're going to be super wealthy. All of this shit is garbage. And this is absolute garbage, and I'm just fed up. So straight up, I am going to call out all of this garbage that I see it. You like it or not, I don't care anymore. I'm sick and tired of this. I'm sick and tired of losing and trying my fucking ass off to help people and being nickeled and dimed by everybody every day when I'm like, this is happening. You're being charged a fortune and then you're upset that we're like, oh, we also have to charge a fee. Just drives me absolutely bananas. And, you know, whatever. That's it. That's as far as I'm going to go on that. But I'm just fed up. I'm sorry for getting that upset. But, you know, I've been doing this for 11 years. I've never made a ton of money because I've been trying to help people out. And sometimes I get just absolutely screwed over because clients are lied to all the time. And I never lie. And I never lied. I've never lied once. I've never told anybody exactly what they weren't being charged. I've never said that I know that your investments are going to outperform anything. All I've ever said is that I know how to give you advice, and I know that these investments are going to cost you less money, and I'm going to tell you the truth, and I still lose. I still lose to people like this. I make probably a fifth of the amount of money as this piece of garbage. And it drives me absolutely insane. And people are like, well, you probably make money because you hire people. No, because I want more people to help people. So it can't just be me out here being like, doing all of this shit. So anyways, sorry for raging, but I'm going to rage at least once a week now because I'm sick and tired of these people that are pretending they're worth, you know, tens of thousands of dollars worth of fees every single year while you're just watching your retirement plans go down the garbage because they've never given you a good, solid piece of advice and they've sold you shit. I guess I'll just drop the mic. Beauty.